Okay, so I'm going to start by doing a complete step-by-step director's comments on my music video, People Should Smile More. So I'll show you the video that I've uploaded onto YouTube. I'm going to put on silence, that way I can talk over each step. So here was the beginning, where I wanted to create sort of, a beginning entrance with Marios, who was my music teacher, who agreed to be the performer for this shot, entering and being a classic homeless person, setting up his busking set. I wanted to start with, the introduction of the shot by having a title, saying the title of the song, and then that carried on with saying who was the artist. I was able to do this by using Adobe Premiere Elements version 8, and so as you can see here, this is like where you'd see sort of the work, and this is basically where the timeline was. So that's the audio, that's the shot, and that's the title. So when I just move it to the timeline to here, that's when it sort of cross-dissolves into the title over it. So I had to inevitably create 3 layers to actually create the shot. I'm moving back to the video. Now Marios had to lip sing and play over the song. And the way I was able to do this was I used a portable amp that I borrowed off a friend, which meant it didn't need to be played to be plugged in. I just plugged a wire into my phone, which played the song outside at a reasonable volume so that Marios was able to hear the song and play and sing in time to it, so it was easier to match up when it came to the editing process. Now these shots here with the girls, that was my idea for the storyline, and what I did was I actually used this from a storyline, storyboard shots that I had done before, because I wanted to do a practice shoot with the girls to get some ideas of what I wanted them to do before they were into their costumes. I had already planned what they wanted to wear beforehand, because I knew that would be a really long, dreary process, and if we could immediately realise what they were going to be wearing, what they do makeup on the day, it made life much easier. So I used the shots of the practice storyboard to put into the editing process, so that way when it came to the shot 2 weeks later, because I shot the production and the performance separate, because I needed as much time as possible to shoot either of them because they didn't interact with each other. All I had to do was shoot the girls in their costumes of the superhero genre on the day. So these shots were actually shot way before this. Now, this shot that's coming up here is the first animation shot that I used. This was actually inspired by this shot here, because I really wanted to use some still shot drawings of the girls to really sort of get that comic book style that I wanted for the music video. And to do this, I spoke to my friend Natan, who does animation, and he helped me create these drawings by looking at the shots of the photography shots that we had done beforehand. We sat down, designed them together, and inevitably we created this. And we created several others from several other shots that I had shot before. And then I wanted to put sort of really classic sort of storyline titles in between that would then overlap into the production. So here's introducing the first superhero, which is Sparkle. He's meant to be sort of tomboy-esque. Now these shots here, with the titles overlapping, this was achieved through an effect I found, which was called Earthquake, which I'm just going to show you now. Just hold on a second. Here. There you go. There you go. So basically, if you look at the title itself, if I just double click onto it, it comes up with sort of what I've done to it. And inevitably what I've done is I've taken one of these editing tools, which if I just go to effects, one of these are called Earthquake, which is over there, and it makes it shake. And I did this because I wanted to create the same sort of style like the original Batman clip. So if you just look here, you get the gist. It has the same sort of over-the-top cliche, you know, sounds of the punches and everything happening, even though you're saying it with the words overlapping. Now, here I wanted to create sort of the other style, which was Shine, second character, who was more flirty and girly, hence the twirling. And I had to create these personalities without verbal interactions. That was quite difficult. I always wanted to stick to the same locations the girls were in that Marios was in, so even though they don't interact, there's still this feeling that they're overlapping with each other. Now if you look closely, the girls' hair is actually blowing in the wind because it was very windy that day, and I think that was one of the issues we had, was because the girls had to stop all the time to put clothes on to make sure that they were keeping warm for the actors, and that was quite difficult, whereas with Marios it was actually quite a warm day because it was shot 2 weeks before, and he was wearing quite warm clothing to show that he was homeless even though it was a very sunny day, so I had to kind of overcome both those issues. But it was fine in the end. Now here with this shot, if I just rewind slightly, there, the frame suddenly gets smaller if you just look over here from what it was before. And this was because I accidentally put something in the shot there, so to cover it up I had to crop the shot via the elements, and inevitably that was how I kind of got away with that. But if you look closely, you can certainly tell there's a change of size of the frame. Here, this was actually created because just before, when Kayla does that, just before the picture gets in her hand, I made her freeze that position, came up to her, put the picture in her hand, and then carried on filming. And then I just fixed that in the editing process, so it was able to look like it magically appeared in her hand when actually it didn't. I was quite proud of that shot. This was achieved because I wanted to look like the girls were putting the picture on the tree. So I made them run and put the picture on the camera itself, and then shot them again running up to the tree and putting on the tree. So that way it created continuity editing. I think this shot lingered on for a bit too long. I wanted to sort of show that the girls were doing this sort of everywhere, so this was imitating the Black Eyed Peas feel, where they Black Eyed Peas in Whereas the Love video put question marks everywhere, and instead with this one I wanted them to put smiley faces everywhere to kind of make the message. This I started doing, I took the drawings that I created when in Ton, and I put them, photoshopped them over the photography background, so that way it looked like they were more in real life rather than just a white background. And this is again sort of the storyline. They set off to seek out their mission. So the classic comic book style with frozen images. Originally I wanted the girls to fly, but I came across too many difficulties to do that. So I had to just stick with the frozen images, which I think was nice to kind of then link in with the moving images later. And then always back to sort of, you know, the performer giving the message, playing the godlike figure. This was again created with Earthquake. And then this was again photoshopped over the background where Ella was originally sitting in here. And then we, the girl who's playing Sparkle, photoshopped the drawing over that. And then I created the message saying your mission is to spread happiness. So it's imitating the classic bosses of superheroes, being anonymous, giving them, you know, a mission to do, and then achieving that mission. This was done to create continuity editing. I wanted her to wear the jacket because it was becoming increasingly cold during the day, and I needed to you know, find a way of her finding the jacket rather than just sort of suddenly wearing it in the later shots. This was them finding their mission, so again the anonymous boss leaving tasks for them to do, then figuring them out themselves. I was able to get the balloons I exactly wanted. I was really lucky with the bus stop, because the bus stop had a very sort of, you know, bright colours with the yellow sort of enforcing that happy feel to the song. This I accidentally did. I wrote balloon wrong. If you look carefully there should be an extra L, but this was done just to cut off a normal piece of cardboard, black lipstick, believe it or not, to write the signs to show sort of free balloon for a smile, to make it look very sort of childish. And then these were children that, you know, are family friends who agreed to participate in the music video. I found that the youngest was much easier to direct, unlike the older, because if you gave her a balloon she would instantly just get excited and smile for the shots, whereas the older girl you had to be very specific, say do this facial expression, look at the camera like this, and it became increasingly difficult to get the reaction I wanted, so I ended up using more of her in the shot than the older girl, as you can see. I then wanted the girls to go into the public, and so they went into a bit of the street to give out the kids balloons. And what we did was we stood there and we said, who wants to have a balloon? And the parents would come up, and I said, okay, can we get permission for them to be filmed and they can get a free balloon? And they said they'd be more than willing to do that as long as the parents weren't in the shots. And I also got them to sign a little contract to say that they'd given permission for this. Now what actually happened before we were able to give the balloons was that it was again very windy, so the kids had to wait while the girls untangled the balloons in effort to try and give the kids an individual balloon each, and that probably took over half an hour. I think that was something I didn't think about before I decided to use balloons on a very windy day. But eventually this is the shot that we achieved. I originally wanted to get a reverse shot of the kids smiling at Ella and then looking at Ella afterwards, but unfortunately, because, you know, they're children, they're not actors, they were volunteers, it was much easier to just get the shots I could get as quickly as possible and then look at the kid that was smiling at the camera. I used a slow motion shot for this so I could enhance the happiness they were feeling, because in this shot they were genuinely smiling, they were really happy they had like overcome the challenge of unravelling the balloons and then being able to give them to the children afterwards. In this shot, if you listen closely, I have Marios actually playing in the background, sort of to sync in from the pre-recording of the Newton Faulkner record and then to Marios actually playing, so it created a nice sort of syncing feel towards the end. And then I wanted to end on the iconic sign that I wanted to use, which was the smiley face, to sort of spread the message, which is just to enforce happiness around the world. And that's it.